The stars outside the window looked cold and distant. Lieutenant Kang Minho stood alone in the observation deck of the GSS Horizon, watching the darkness of space stretch into forever. He was a combat medic, trained to save lives on battlefields and in emergency rooms. He was not trained to be a diplomat. Yet here he was, about to become one. "Lieutenant Kang, your shuttle leaves in 30 minutes, the ship's computer announced. Minho closed his eyes and took a deep breath. 3 days ago, his commanding officer had called him into her office. She told him that the Galactic Council had chosen him for a special mission. He would serve as a diplomatic liaison aboard a Valari warship. The Valari and humans had been enemies for 15 years. Thousands had died on both sides. Now, after months of careful negotiation, both species were ready to sign a peace treaty. Minho did not understand why they chose him. He was just a medic. He had no experience with politics or alien cultures. When he asked his commander, she simply said, "They requested a human with medical training. You fit the requirements." He picked up his small bag and walked toward the shuttle bay. Other crew members watched him pass. Some gave him looks of pity. Others looked relieved that they were not the ones going. Everyone knew about the Valari. They were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and silver eyes. They were also proud, cold, and they looked down on humans like adults look down on children. The shuttle ride took 4 hours. Minho spent most of it reading everything he could find about Valari culture. They valued strength and intelligence above all else. They considered emotions to be weakness. They had ruled their part of the galaxy for over 10,000 years, while humans had only discovered space travel a century ago. To the Valari, humans were newcomers, primitives, barely worth their attention. When the shuttle docked with the Valari flagship, Minho felt his heart beating fast. The door opened, and cold air rushed in. 2 Valari guards stood waiting for him. They were both over 2 meters tall, with sharp features and expressions that showed nothing. "Follow," one of them said. It was not a request. Minho followed them through long corridors made of dark metal. Everything on the ship looked expensive and ancient. Strange symbols covered the walls. The lights were dim, making everything feel like a temple or a tomb. Other Valari passed them in the halls. Most did not even look at Minho. The few who did looked at him the way someone might look at an insect. They brought him to a large room filled with Valari officers. At the center stood a raised platform, and on that platform sat a throne made of black stone. On the throne sat the most striking being Minho had ever seen. High Commander Yira was tall even by Valari standards. Her skin was pale blue like the others, but her eyes were darker, like deep water. She wore armor made of silver metal that caught the dim light. Her white hair was pulled back tight against her head. She looked powerful. She looked dangerous. And she was staring directly at Minho. "The human representative," one of the guards announced. Yira did not move. She simply watched Minho with those dark eyes. The room was completely silent. Minho could feel sweat forming on his back, but he forced himself to stand straight. He remembered what he had read. Valari respected strength. Showing fear would be the worst thing he could do. "You are smaller than I expected," Yira finally said. Her voice was cold and smooth like ice. "I am average height for my species, High Commander," Minho replied. He was surprised his voice did not shake. A few of the officers made small sounds. Were they laughing? Minho could not tell. Yira's expression did not change. "You are a healer," she said. "A medic." "Yes, High Commander." "Why did your leaders send a healer instead of a warrior or a politician?" Minho had wondered the same thing, but he could not say that. Perhaps they believed that someone who saves lives would be better suited for building peace than someone who takes them. The room went quiet again. Yira tilted her head slightly, studying him like a scientist might study a strange new creature. "Interesting," she said softly. Then louder, "Lieutenant Kang Minho will be assigned to my personal diplomatic detail. He will report directly to me." Murmurs spread through the room. Several officers exchanged confused looks. One of them, a broad-shouldered male with scars on his face, stepped forward. "High Commander, with respect, is that wise? Placing a human so close to your person could be dangerous. Are you questioning my judgment, Admiral Koth?" Yira asked. Her voice had not changed, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Admiral Koth lowered his head. No, High Commander, I apologize. The human stays with me. This discussion is over. The officers bowed and began to leave. Minho stood frozen, unsure of what to do. A female Valari with kind eyes approached him and gestured for him to follow. She introduced herself as Scholar Ven and said she would show him to his quarters. The quarters were small but clean. Minho sat on the bed and tried to calm his racing mind. Something strange was happening. Why would the most powerful person on this ship want him close to her? He was nobody. He had no important information, no special skills that would interest someone like Yira. Hours passed. Minho tried to sleep but could not. The ship was too quiet, too cold, too alien. He was starting to drift off when a soft chime sounded at his door. He opened it to find one of the guards. High Commander Yira requests your presence, the guard said. Now, Minho's stomach tightened. It was the middle of the night cycle. What could she possibly want at this hour? He followed the guard through the dark corridors until they reached a door made of polished black metal. The guard pressed a panel, and the door slid open. Enter, the guard commanded, then walked away. Minho stepped inside. The room was Yira's private quarters. It was larger than he expected, filled with strange art and weapons mounted on the walls. Yira stood by a window, looking out at the stars. She wore simple, dark clothing instead of her armor. She looked almost human in this light. The door slid shut behind him. He heard a soft click. Locked. Yira turned to face him. Her dark eyes caught the starlight. You are mine tonight, human, she said. Minho's blood turned to ice. He had heard stories about what some alien species did to human prisoners. His hands began to shake, but he forced himself to meet her eyes. What do you want from me? He asked. Yira walked closer. She stopped just a few steps away from him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, her cold expression changed. Something like desperation flickered in her eyes. I need your help, she whispered. You are the only one I can trust. And in that moment, Minho understood that everything he thought he knew was wrong. Minho stared at Yira. Her words echoed in his mind. She needed his help. She trusted him. This was not what he had expected. Not at all. I do not understand, Minho said slowly. You are the High Commander. You have hundreds of officers, doctors, and advisors. Why would you need help from a human? Yira walked past him and checked the door. She pressed several buttons on a panel, and Minho heard more locks clicking into place. When she turned back to him, her face was pale, paler than before. Because someone on this ship is trying to kill me, she said. And I believe the killer is one of my own people. She moved to a chair and sat down heavily. For the first time, Minho noticed that she looked tired. Exhausted, actually. Dark circles under her eyes. A slight tremor in her hands. These were not signs of strength. These were signs of sickness. 3 weeks ago, I began feeling strange. Yira continued. Weakness in my limbs. Difficulty sleeping. Pain in my chest that comes and goes. At first, I thought it was stress from the peace negotiations, but the symptoms kept getting worse. Have you seen your physicians? Minho asked. Of course. They ran every test. They scanned my entire body with our most advanced technology. They found nothing wrong. Her voice became bitter. They told me I was perfectly healthy. They said the symptoms were in my imagination. Minho frowned. He had treated many patients who were dismissed by doctors. Sometimes the most dangerous conditions were the hardest to detect. But you believe you were poisoned, he said. I know I was poisoned. Yira reached into her clothing and pulled out a small device. She pressed it, and a holographic image appeared in the air between them. It showed complex medical data that Minho could not read. I have spent years studying our enemies. I know every poison used by every species in this sector. There is one called Silent Night. It is made from a rare plant found only on our colony worlds. It kills slowly over many days, and it leaves no trace that our scanners can find. If it leaves no trace, how do you know you were poisoned with it? Because I recognize the symptoms. I saw this poison used once before, many years ago. My mother died from it. The words hung in the air like smoke. Minho understood now why Yira looked so haunted. This was personal. The poison will kill me within 72 hours, Yira said. Maybe less. And when I die, everything falls apart. The peace treaty will fail. The war faction on my ship will blame humans for my death. They will attack your people. Millions will die. Minho felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. This was so much bigger than one person's life. This was about the fate of 2 entire species. Why me? He asked. Why do you trust a human you just met? Yira smiled, but there was no happiness in it. Because you are human. That is exactly why I can trust you. The killer is Valari. Every Valari on this ship has political connections, ambitions, loyalties I cannot see. But you? You are an outsider. You have no reason to want me dead. In fact, my death would be terrible for your people. She stood up and walked toward him. There is another reason. Your species evolved differently from mine. Human senses perceive things that Valari senses cannot. Your medicine developed along different paths. You might see something that my doctors missed. Minho thought about this. It was true that different species had different biological strengths. Humans had excellent pattern recognition. They could notice tiny details that seemed unimportant but actually mattered. It was one of the things that made humans good at survival. You want me to examine you, Minho said, using human methods? Yes. Our technology found nothing. Perhaps your primitive techniques will succeed where our advanced scanners failed. She paused. I mean no offense by the word primitive. None taken, Minho said. He was already thinking like a doctor. Symptoms: weakness, sleep problems, chest pain. Timeline: 3 weeks and getting worse. Suspected cause: organic poison from a plant source. I will need certain things. Access to medical equipment. Samples of your blood and tissue. And complete honesty from you about everything you have eaten, drunk, or touched in the past month. Yira nodded. You will have whatever you need. But we must work in secret. If the assassin discovers what we are doing, they will try to kill us both. Then why announce that I am assigned to your personal detail? Everyone on the ship knows I am close to you now. Exactly, Yira said. They think they know why I want you near me. Let them think what they want. Rumors will spread that the High Commander has taken an interest in the human. Some will think it is curiosity. Others will think it is something else entirely. None of them will guess the truth. Minho understood. The announcement was misdirection. By putting him in plain sight, Yira had actually hidden him. No one would suspect that the human was investigating a murder that had not happened yet. There is one more thing, Yira said. She looked directly into his eyes. If you do this, you will be in great danger. The assassin has already proven they can move unseen on this ship. They killed before without being caught. If they discover you are hunting them, they will not hesitate to kill you too. I understand the risk, Minho said. Do you? You could leave right now. Return to your shuttle. Go back to your people and forget this ever happened. I would not blame you. Minho thought about it. She was right. He could walk away. He did not owe her anything. She was a stranger, an alien, someone who had looked at humans with contempt just hours ago. Why should he risk his life for her? But then he thought about what would happen if she died. War. Death. Millions of lives lost. Human colonies burned. Valari cities destroyed. Children on both sides growing up without parents because their leaders could not find a way to make peace. He was a medic. His job was to save lives. Sometimes that meant treating one patient. Sometimes it meant more. I will help you, Minho said. Show me where I can work. Relief flooded Yira's face. For just a moment, she looked almost vulnerable. Then the cold mask returned, but Minho had seen what was underneath. She was scared. She was dying, and she had placed all her hope in him. Follow me, she said. She led him to a hidden door behind a wall panel. It opened into a small laboratory that looked like it had not been used in years. Old equipment covered the tables. Dust covered everything. This was my mother's private research room, Yira explained. No one knows it exists. We will work here. Minho looked around at the ancient equipment. Most of it was unfamiliar, but some pieces looked similar to devices he knew. He could make this work. I need your blood first, he said. And I need you to tell me everything about the past month, every meal, every meeting, every person who had access to your food and drink." Yura sat down in a chair and rolled up her sleeve. Her blue skin looked almost gray in the dim light. "Begin," she said. And so, Minho began the most important medical examination of his life. Somewhere on this ship, a killer was waiting. The clock was ticking, and the only thing standing between peace and war was one human medic with 72 hours to find the truth. He would not fail. He could not fail. Lives depended on it. The night cycle on the Valari ship lasted 8 hours. Minho did not sleep for any of them. Instead, he worked in the hidden laboratory, studying Yura's blood samples under old equipment that he had to repair before he could use. Yura sat in the corner, watching him. She had told him everything about her recent activities. Every meeting, every meal, every person she had spoken with. The list of suspects was long, but 3 names appeared more often than others: Admiral Koth, Scholar Vin, and Liaison Tova. All 3 had regular access to the High Commander. All 3 had opportunity to poison her. "Your technology really found nothing?" Minho asked, looking up from the microscope. "Nothing. They said my blood was perfect. No toxins, no foreign substances, no abnormalities." Yera's voice was tired. "But I know my body. Something is wrong." Minho nodded. He had seen this before with human patients. Sometimes the most advanced tests missed things that simple observation could find. Medicine was not just about technology. It was about paying attention. He put aside the microscope and walked over to Yura. "May I examine you directly?" "The old way, without machines." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Do what you must." Minho began with basic observations. He looked at her eyes, checking for changes in her pupils. He examined her skin, noting the color and texture. He pressed gently on her neck, feeling for swelling. He listened to her heartbeat, counting the rhythm. "Breathe deeply," he said. She breathed. He watched her chest rise and fall. There was something slightly wrong with the movement, a small hesitation. Most people would never notice it. "You feel pain when you breathe deeply," he said. It was not a question. Yura's eyes widened slightly. "How did you know?" "I did not tell you that. Your body told me. You stop your breath just before the pain comes. It is a tiny movement, but it is there." Minho continued his examination. "Your Valari doctors use scanners that see inside your body, but they do not watch your body from outside. They do not notice the small signs." He lifted her hand and looked at her fingers. There was a faint tremor, so small that it was almost invisible. He smelled her skin. There was a strange scent, like metal and flowers mixed together. It was very faint. A Valari nose would probably not detect it at all. "What do you smell?" Yura asked. "Something chemical. Your body is fighting against something, and the battle is producing unusual compounds that come out through your skin." Minho went back to the laboratory table. Human noses evolved to detect danger. We can smell things that other species cannot. It helped our ancestors survive when they lived in jungles full of predators. He began mixing chemicals from the old supplies in the laboratory. Some of them were Valari substances he did not recognize, but chemistry followed universal laws. He could figure out what they did by testing them. "What are you doing?" Yura asked. "A simple test. Your advanced scanners look for known poisons. They compare your blood to a database and search for matches. But what if this poison is not in the database? What if it has been modified or combined with other substances?" Minho added a drop of Yura's blood to his mixture. The liquid turned from clear to pale yellow. He smiled. "There it is," he said. Yura stood up quickly, then grabbed the chair as dizziness hit her. She was getting worse. "You found something? Your blood reacted with this compound. That should not happen if your blood is clean." Minho worked quickly, adding more chemicals, watching the colors change. "The poison is there. It is just hiding." The Valari scanners look at individual molecules, but this poison breaks apart into harmless pieces when it enters your blood. Each piece looks innocent. The scanners see nothing dangerous, but the pieces come back together inside my body, Yura said, understanding. "Yes. They reassemble in your organs and attack from within." Very clever. Very deadly. Minho continued his tests. The scent I detected on your skin is one of the pieces trying to escape your body. Your system is fighting hard. That is why you are still alive. But you are losing the battle. Yira sat back down slowly. Can you stop it? Can you create a cure? I need to understand the poison completely first. Then I need to find the right combination of chemicals to break it apart permanently. Minho looked at her seriously. And I need to know exactly what plant this came from. Different sources might need different cures. The plant is called Winter's End. It grows only on 3 of our colony worlds. Yira's face hardened. This means the assassin has connections to those worlds. That narrows down the suspects. Minho nodded. Admiral Koth. Scholar Vin. Liaison Tova. Do any of them have connections to those colonies? All 3 do. Koth was stationed on one of them years ago. Ven conducts research there regularly. And Tova. Yira paused. Tova is a political officer. Her job takes her everywhere. Then we investigate all 3. The next few hours were filled with careful work. Minho analyzed the poison while Yira told him everything she knew about the suspects. Admiral Koth was ambitious and had publicly opposed the peace treaty. He believed humans should be conquered, not negotiated with. Scholar Ven was quiet and focused on her research. Her brother had died in the war against humans. Liaison Tova was a mystery. She said little, watched everything, and reported to political leaders back home. Any of them could be the assassin, Minho said. But we need evidence. We cannot accuse a high-ranking Valari without proof. Agreed. If we are wrong, it will cause a scandal that could destroy the peace talks anyway. Minho thought about the problem. In human medicine, when you could not find the disease, sometimes you had to make the disease reveal itself. You created conditions that forced it into the open. We need to set traps, he said. We give each suspect different information. Then we watch what happens. Whoever acts on their specific information is the assassin. Yira smiled for the first time since Minho had met her. It changed her whole face. She looked almost warm. That is a good plan. Simple but effective. In the meantime, I will continue working on the cure. The poison is organic, so the cure must also be organic. I need access to your ship's botanical storage. I will arrange it. But be careful. If the assassin sees you taking unusual supplies, they may become suspicious. Minho nodded. He was already thinking about how to move through the ship without attracting attention. It would not be easy. Everywhere he went, he stood out. The small human among the tall Valari, the primitive newcomer among the ancient civilization. But maybe that was also his advantage. They underestimated him. They saw him as harmless, unimportant, just a curiosity for their high commander. They did not know that this harmless human was hunting them. As the artificial morning light began to fill the ship, Yira stood to leave. She paused at the door. Lieutenant Kang, she said. Yes? Your species has been among the stars for merely a century. Yet tonight, you found what our physicians could not. You saw what our technology missed. She looked at him with those dark eyes. I am beginning to understand why humans have survived as long as they have. She left without waiting for a response. Minho stood alone in the hidden laboratory, surrounded by old equipment and new discoveries. 48 hours remained. The hunt had truly begun. The next day, Minho began his investigation openly. He walked through the ship as Yira's liaison, attending meetings, observing officers, and asking questions that seemed innocent but were carefully designed. The Valari tolerated his presence because their high commander demanded it, but their dislike was clear in every cold glance. The first suspect was Admiral Koth. Minho found him in the combat training room, practicing with weapons that looked ancient and deadly. Koth was huge, even by Valari standards. Scars covered his arms and face. He had been a warrior long before he became a leader. The human, Koth said without stopping his practice. His blade cut through the air with terrifying speed. Come to study us like animals in a zoo? I am here to learn, Minho replied calmly. High Commander Yira believes understanding between our species is important. Koth laughed. It was not a friendly sound. Understanding. Is that what she calls it? Everyone on this ship sees how she looks at you. Human. They think she has gone soft. Taking a pet from the enemy species. Is that what you think, Admiral? Koth stopped his practice and turned to face Minho. His eyes were cold and hard. I think the High Commander makes her own choices. I do not question her. But I will tell you this. If you harm her in any way, I will kill you myself. Peace treaty or no peace treaty? Minho studied the Admiral's face. He saw anger. Yes. He saw contempt for humans. But he also saw something else. Genuine loyalty to Yira. Koth might oppose peace with humans, but he would not betray his commander. Minho was almost certain of it. I have no intention of harming her, Minho said. I am a healer, not a killer. Koth grunted and returned to his practice. Then stay out of my way, healer. Minho left the training room with one suspect crossed off his mental list. Not eliminated completely, but moved lower in priority. The Admiral was too direct, too obvious. If he wanted to kill Yira, he would challenge her openly, not use hidden poisons. The second suspect was Scholar Vin. Minho found her in the ship's science laboratory, surrounded by screens filled with data. She looked up when he entered, and her expression was curious rather than hostile. Lieutenant Kang, she said, I wondered when you would come to see me. You expected me? Of course, you are investigating something. I can see it in the way you watch people, the way you ask questions. Vin smiled slightly. I am a scientist. Observation is my specialty. Minho decided to be partially honest. High Commander Yira has asked me to learn about the key officers on this ship. She believes cultural exchange is important for the peace process. A diplomatic answer, but not the complete truth. Vin turned back to her screens. Ask your questions. I have nothing to hide. Minho asked about her work, her background, her opinions on the peace treaty. Vin answered everything openly. She explained that she researched alien biology, including human biology. She said the war had taken much from her, including her brother, who died in a battle against human forces. Do you hate humans? Minho asked directly. Vin was quiet for a moment. I did. For many years I hated your entire species. I dreamed of revenge. She looked at Minho with sad eyes. But hatred is exhausting. It takes everything and gives nothing back. My brother would not want me to spend my life hating. He would want me to find answers, to understand, to grow. So I study, I learn, and I have found that humans are not so different from us. Minho believed her. The pain in her eyes was real, but he also noticed something else. Vin was nervous, small signs that most people would miss. A slight tremor in her voice. Eyes that moved too quickly. Hands that could not stay still. She was hiding something. Thank you for your time, Scholar Vin, Minho said. He would watch her carefully. The third suspect was the most difficult to reach. Liaison Tova seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. She attended meetings silently, taking notes, watching everyone. When Minho tried to approach her, she always had somewhere else to be. Finally, he caught her in a corridor near the communication center. Liaison Tova, he said, may I speak with you? She stopped walking but did not turn around. What does the human want? Just conversation. I am trying to understand the different roles on this ship. Tova turned slowly. Her face was completely blank, showing nothing. Her eyes were like mirrors, reflecting everything and revealing nothing. I am a political officer. I observe and report. There is nothing more to understand. Who do you report to? My superiors in the government. My reports ensure that the military and political leadership stay connected. Her voice was flat, without emotion. Is there anything else? Minho tried to read her, but it was like looking at a wall. She gave nothing away. This was someone trained to hide their true self. Someone who could lie without any sign of deception. No, Minho said. Thank you for your time. Tova nodded once and walked away. Minho watched her go, his instinct screaming that something was wrong with her. But instinct was not proof. That evening, Minho reported to Yira in the hidden laboratory. She looked worse than before. Her movements were slower, her breathing more difficult. The poison was winning. What did you learn? She asked. Koth is loyal to you. He opposes peace with humans, but he would never betray you personally. Ven is hiding something, but I do not think it is assassination. She seems genuinely changed by grief. Minho paused. Tova is a blank wall. I could not read her at all. That is her training. Political officers learn to show nothing. It also makes her the perfect assassin. Yira nodded slowly. But we need proof. Without evidence, I cannot accuse a government officer of murder. It would cause a political disaster. Then we use the trap I suggested. We give each suspect different information and see who acts on it. Minho had already planned the details. We tell Koth that a secret meeting will happen in the lower decks. We tell Ven that important research data has been discovered in the cargo bay. We tell Tova that a communication from human leadership will arrive at a specific time. All lies. Yes. But whoever shows up at their specific location is reacting to information only they received. That proves they are involved in something hidden. Yira agreed to the plan. Over the next few hours, she found ways to give each suspect their false information. Then they waited. Meanwhile, Minho continued working on the cure. He had gathered samples from the botanical storage, moving carefully to avoid attention. The poison was complex, but he was beginning to understand it. He needed human blood to create the counteragent. His own blood. But that was a problem for later. First, they had to catch the assassin. The trap was set. The clock was ticking. And somewhere on the ship, a killer was about to make a mistake. Minho had positioned himself near the communication center, where Tova was supposed to arrive if she acted on her false information. The corridor was empty and silent. The ship's lights had dimmed for the night cycle, casting long shadows across the metal walls. He waited for 2 hours, beginning to doubt his plan. Perhaps he had been wrong. Perhaps the assassin was smarter than he thought. Perhaps Yira would die and war would come. And it would be his failure. Then he heard footsteps. Liaison Tova walked quickly down the corridor, her eyes focused on the communication center ahead. She did not notice Minho hiding in the shadows. She entered a code on the door panel and stepped inside. Minho followed silently. Through the small window in the door, he watched Tova access the communication system. She was searching for something that did not exist. The false message from human leadership that Yira had described to her. It is not there, Tova whispered to herself. Where is it? She searched more frantically, checking different channels, different frequencies. Her calm mask had cracked. Beneath it, Minho saw desperation and fear. He had seen enough. He stepped away from the door and contacted Yira through the small device she had given him. It is Tova, he said quietly. She came for the false message. Are you certain? Completely. Meet me in the laboratory. We need to plan our next move carefully. Minho made his way through the ship, moving through service corridors to avoid being seen. His heart was beating fast. They had found the assassin. But catching her was only the beginning. They needed to understand the full scope of her plan. In the laboratory, Yira was sitting in her chair, looking weaker than ever. Her blue skin had turned gray at the edges. Her breathing was shallow and labored. Time was running out. Tova is a political officer with connections to the war faction, Yira said. If she is working alone, we can arrest her and end this. But if she has support from others, she might have backup plans, other assassins. Or worse. Minho thought about the political situation. If the war faction is behind this, they would not rely on just one method to restart the conflict. You are right. We need to know everything she knows. Yira forced herself to stand, though the effort was clearly painful. I will have her brought to my quarters for questioning. You will hide and observe. Watch for signs of deception. What about Scholar Ven? She was also hiding something. Yira paused. You think they are connected? I do not know. But Ven was nervous when I spoke with her. She has secrets. Perhaps Tova has used those secrets against her. They decided to question Ven first. Yira summoned the scholar to her quarters, and Minho hid behind a screen, where he could watch without being seen. Ven arrived looking frightened. She stood before Yira with her head bowed, hands clasped tightly together. You wish to see me, High Commander? Yes. Yira's voice was cold. I know you are hiding something, Scholar Ven. I have watched you these past weeks. Your behavior has changed. You are nervous, secretive, afraid. Tell me why. Ven's eyes filled with tears. "Hi, Commander, I cannot. You will tell me, or I will have you confined under suspicion of treason." The word treason hit Ven like a physical blow. She fell to her knees, sobbing. "I did not know," she cried. "I swear, I did not know what they were planning. Liaison Tova came to me months ago. She said she was investigating security risks. She asked questions about poisons, about detection methods. She said it was for a government report." Minho watched from his hiding spot, analyzing every word and gesture. Ven was telling the truth. Her grief was real. Her guilt was real. "You gave her information about the Silent Night poison," Yira said. "Yes. She said she needed to understand how it worked so the government could protect against it. I never imagined she would use it against you." Ven looked up at Yira with desperate eyes. "You must believe me, High Commander. I would never harm you. You are the only hope for peace. Without you, the war will continue forever." Yira was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke softly. "I believe you, Scholar Ven. You were used, manipulated. Tova knew about your guilt over your brother's death. She knew you wanted peace. She used that against you." Ven collapsed completely, her body shaking with sobs. "What have I done? What have I done?" Minho stepped out from behind the screen. Ven looked at him with shock. "The human has been helping me investigate," Yira explained. "He is the one who discovered the poison in my blood. Your own scans found nothing." Ven stared at Minho with a mixture of amazement and shame. A human found what Valari technology could not. "Perhaps we are not as superior as we believe. We need to know more," Minho said. "What exactly did Tova ask you? What information did you give her?" For the next hour, Ven told them everything. She had explained the chemistry of Silent Night, how it broke apart in blood, how it could defeat detection systems. She had even suggested which plants would be best for creating the poison, but there was more. Tova had also asked about human biology. She wanted to know human weaknesses, human fears. She had asked whether a war could be blamed on humans if something happened to the High Commander. "She is not just trying to kill you," Minho realized. "She is planning to use your death to restart the war. She will make it look like humans assassinated you." Yira's expression hardened. "The peace treaty includes a human delegation. They are supposed to arrive tomorrow for the signing ceremony. If you die before they arrive, and evidence points to humans." Minho felt cold fear spreading through his chest. "My forces will destroy them. The war will begin again within hours." Yira stood, ignoring her weakness. "We must stop her now, tonight." She called her personal guards and ordered them to find Liaison Tova. But when they searched her quarters, they found them empty. Tova had disappeared. "She knows," Minho said. "She knows we are hunting her." "Search the entire ship," Yira commanded. "Lock down all shuttles. No one leaves." The guards rushed to obey. Yira turned to Minho, her dark eyes filled with determination despite her failing body. "Find her," she said. "Find her before she destroys everything we have worked for." Minho nodded. The assassin was loose on the ship. Yira was dying, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The hunt was not over. It had only become more desperate. The ship became a maze of shadows and danger. Guards searched every corridor, every room, every hidden space. But Liaison Tova had spent years learning the secrets of this vessel. She knew places that did not appear on any map. Minho returned to the hidden laboratory while the search continued. He had to focus on what he could control. Finding Tova was the guard's job. Saving Yira's life was his. The cure was almost ready. He had spent hours analyzing the poison and designing a counteragent. The formula was sound. There was just one problem. The key component required human enzymes that did not exist anywhere on the Valari ship. He could synthesize them, but that would take days. Yira had hours. There was only one solution, and it terrified him. He would have to give her his own blood. Human blood and Valari blood were not compatible. The textbook said a transfusion between species would cause a violent reaction that could kill both parties. But Minho had studied the chemistry. If he modified his blood with the counteragent first, if he controlled the amounts precisely, if everything went perfectly, There was a chance it could work. A chance, not a guarantee. The risk to both of them was enormous. He was still considering his options when the door to the laboratory opened. Yira stumbled inside, supported by Admiral Koth. Her condition had gotten dramatically worse. Her skin was almost white now. Her breathing came in short, painful gasps. She collapsed during the search, Koth said. His usual hostility toward Minho was gone, replaced by fear for his commander. She refused to stop working, stubborn fool. Help me get her to the chair, Minho said. They lowered Yira into the seat. Her eyes were unfocused, struggling to stay open. The poison had reached a critical stage. Without treatment, she would be dead within hours, maybe minutes. Have you found the assassin? Minho asked. Not yet. But we caught a transmission. Tova contacted the war faction headquarters. She told them the plan is proceeding. The human delegation will be blamed for the High Commander's death. Koth's hands clenched into fists. Traitors. I will tear them apart myself. First, we need to save her life. Minho began preparing equipment. Admiral, I need you to leave now. I will not abandon her. What I am about to do is dangerous and possibly illegal by your medical laws. It is better if you do not witness it. Koth stared at Minho for a long moment. Then he looked at Yira, who was barely conscious. Save her, he said quietly. I do not care what methods you use. Just save her. He left the laboratory. Minho locked the door behind him. Working quickly, he drew blood from his own arm. The red liquid looked strange in this room full of Valari technology. So human, so out of place. He added the counteragent he had created, mixing it carefully, watching the chemical reaction stabilize. Yira's eyes opened slightly. What are you doing? Her voice was barely a whisper. The cure requires human enzymes. I cannot synthesize them in time. So I am giving you my blood directly, modified with the counteragent. That is impossible. Human and Valari blood will reject each other. Probably. But there is a small chance it will work. Your species and mine are more similar than your scientists believe. We share genetic ancestors from millions of years ago, before our worlds separated. Minho finished preparing the transfusion. Without this treatment, you will die. With it, you might die. I think the second option is better. Yira tried to laugh but ended up coughing instead. Human logic. It is strangely convincing. I need you to understand the risk. I could be wrong about the compatibility. This could kill us both. I understand. Yira looked at him with those dark eyes. Even now, even dying, they held strength. Do it. Minho connected the transfusion equipment. His blood, carrying the counteragent, began flowing into Yira's body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Yira screamed. Her body convulsed as the foreign blood entered her system. Her immune system recognized the invasion and fought back. Minho held her down, watching the monitors, praying to whatever might be listening that he had calculated correctly. The temperature of her blood rose dangerously high. Her heart rate spiked. The monitors flashed warnings in Valari text that Minho could not read but understood anyway. She was dying. Come on, he whispered. Fight through it. Your body can do this. Long minutes passed. Minho felt his own strength fading as his blood drained into her. His vision blurred. His hands shook. But he did not stop the transfusion. Not yet. Not until enough of the counteragent had entered her system. Finally, slowly, something changed. Yira's convulsions eased. Her breathing steadied. The monitors stopped flashing warnings. Her skin, which had been white as death, began to regain its blue color. Minho stopped the transfusion and collapsed onto the floor. The room spun around him. He had given too much blood. His body felt empty, hollow, barely alive. But Yira was breathing normally now. Her eyes had closed, but it was natural sleep, not the unconsciousness of dying. The cure was working. The poison was being destroyed. Minho lay on the cold floor, staring at the ceiling, too weak to move. He had done it. Against all odds, against everything the medical textbook said was possible, he had saved her. Hours passed. Minho drifted in and out of consciousness. At some point, he became aware that Yira had woken up. She was kneeling beside him, her face filled with concern. "You saved my life," she said, "and nearly killed yourself doing it. It worked." His voice was rough and weak. "That is what matters. Foolish human. You should have told me the risk to yourself. You would have refused." Yira was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. A real smile with warmth in it. "Yes, I would have. Which is why you did not tell me." She helped him sit up. His head spun, but he felt stronger than before. His body was already producing new blood to replace what he had lost. "Tova," he said. "Did they find her?" Yira's expression hardened. "Not yet. But we intercepted another communication. We know her full plan now. She has planted evidence in the human delegation's shuttle. When I died, she would claim humans had poisoned me. But I am not dead. The plan has failed. She might try something else, something desperate. Which is why we must find her now, before the human delegation arrives." Yira stood and offered Minho her hand. "Can you walk?" Minho took her hand and pulled himself up. His legs were unsteady, but they held. "I can walk," he said. "Let us finish this." Together, they left the laboratory. The assassin was still out there. The peace treaty was still in danger. But Yira was alive, and Minho had proven what a human could do when everything was on the line. The final confrontation was coming. She was trying to escape. When the guards closed in on her, she pulled a weapon and held it to her own head. "Stay back," she commanded. Her eyes were wild with desperation. "If I cannot complete my mission, I will die before letting you interrogate me." Yira stepped forward, looking stronger than she had in weeks. The cure had worked better than anyone expected. Her body had not just survived the treatment, it had thrived. "It is over, Tova," Yira said calmly. "Your plan has failed. I am alive. The evidence you planted has been found and removed. When the human delegation arrives, there will be peace, not war." "Peace?" Tova spat the word like poison. "Peace with the animals who killed my family? Who burned our colony worlds? You are a traitor to your own species. The war took lives on both sides. Humans lost families too. More death will not bring your family back." Yira took another step closer. "Surrender. Face justice. If you die here, you accomplish nothing." Tova's hand trembled. Tears ran down her blue cheeks. "You do not understand. The war faction promised me revenge. They said killing you would start a conflict that would end the human species forever. Finally, justice for everyone they murdered." "The war faction used you," Minho said. He walked forward despite his weakness. "They do not care about your family. They care about power. If war comes, millions more families will be destroyed. Valari families, human families, children will grow up without parents. Parents will bury their children. Is that the justice you want?" Tova stared at him. The human who should have been her enemy. The primitive creature who had ruined everything. "Why do you care?" she asked. "Why did you save her? She is not your kind." Minho thought about the question. It was a good one. Why had he risked his life for an alien who had looked at humans with contempt? "Because saving lives is what I do," he said finally. "I am a healer. It does not matter whose life it is. Human, Valari, it makes no difference. Life is precious. Every life, including yours." Something changed in Tova's eyes. The madness faded, replaced by exhaustion and grief. Slowly, her hand lowered. The weapon dropped to the floor. "I am tired," she whispered. "So tired of hating." Guards moved in and restrained her. As they led her away, she looked back at Minho one last time. "I hope you are right about peace," she said. "For all our sakes." The shuttle bay was quiet after she was gone. Yira stood beside Minho, watching the guards disappear down the corridor. "You have a gift," she said. "You reached something inside her that I could not. Humans are good at understanding emotions. It helped us survive when we had nothing else." Minho felt exhausted but satisfied. What happens to her now? She will stand trial for attempted assassination. The evidence is overwhelming. But she gave us valuable information about the war faction. Her testimony will help us destroy them completely. Yira turned to face him. "Thanks to you, the conspiracy has been exposed. Peace will come. Hours later, the human delegation arrived. Their shuttle docked with the Valari flagship, and diplomats from both species gathered in the Great Hall for the signing ceremony. Minho stood at Yura's side, wearing a formal uniform she had given him. He felt out of place among all the important officials. But Yura had insisted. "You saved this peace," she had told him. "You deserve to witness its birth." The ceremony was long and full of formal speeches. Leaders from both species talked about the end of conflict, the beginning of cooperation, the hope for a future where humans and Valari could work together instead of fighting. When the treaty was finally signed, a cheer rose from the crowd. Minho saw Valari and humans shaking hands for the first time. Scholar Vin was crying tears of joy. Even Admiral Koth looked pleased, though he would probably never admit it. Afterward, there was a celebration. Music played, food was served, and for a few hours, the two species mingled as if they had never been enemies at all. Minho stepped onto a quiet balcony to escape the noise. He looked out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, he had been a simple medic who had never met an alien. Now he had saved the most powerful Valari in the galaxy and helped prevent a war. Strange how life could change so quickly. "You are hiding." Yura's voice came from behind him. He turned to find her standing in the doorway. She had changed from her formal armor into something simpler. In the starlight, she looked almost soft. "Not hiding," he said. "Just thinking." She walked over to stand beside him. For a moment, they watched the stars in silence. "I have a proposal for you," Yura said finally. "The Valari Dominion needs a permanent human ambassador, someone who understands both species, someone who has proven they can be trusted in crisis." She looked at him. "I want you to take that position." Minho stared at her in shock. "Me? I am just a medic. I have no training in diplomacy. You have something better than training. You have compassion. You have courage. You have the ability to see beyond differences and find what connects us." Yura smiled. "In 1 week, you did more for peace than our professional diplomats achieved in years." Minho thought about it. The idea was terrifying. He would be representing all of humanity in a foreign civilization. The responsibility was enormous, but he also thought about what he could accomplish, the misunderstandings he could prevent, the lives he could save, the future he could help build. "I accept," he said. Yura's smile widened. "Good. The paperwork will be terrible, but I am sure you will survive it." They both laughed. And for a moment, they were not a human and a Valari. They were just two people who had been through something extraordinary together. "There is one more thing," Yura said. Her voice became serious. "That first night, when I told you that you were mine, I meant it as possession, ownership. In my culture, claiming someone means they belong to you. I remember. But I have learned that humans have a different meaning for such words. Your concept of belonging involves choice, not possession. It involves two people who choose each other freely." Yura met his eyes. "I think I prefer the human way." Minho felt warmth spreading through his chest. "Maybe you will understand it completely someday." "Perhaps I will." Yura looked back at the stars. "We have time now. Thanks to you." The next morning, Minho stood before a joint assembly of Valari and human officials. Yura introduced him as the new human ambassador to the Valari Dominion. It was the first time such a position had ever existed. History was being made. As Minho stepped forward to give his first speech, he paused at the door. He looked back at Yura, who stood watching him with pride in her dark eyes. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the fear and the danger, the impossible choices and the desperate risks, the moment when he had nearly died to save someone he barely knew. All of it had led to this: a new dawn for two species, a future built on understanding instead of hatred, peace where there had been war, and it had started with one human doing what humans did best, caring about life, even when it was not his own. Minho walked into the light, ready to face whatever came next, one human step at a time.